this world into the place we are hearing out of the vision of Minister Louis Farrakhan. And with that, if we could receive our minister with a due reception.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. My dear brothers and sisters, thank you so very much for your presence tonight. It's always a joy to be here and to see you, although we're moving almost at whirlwind pace. Yes, and we have not had a chance to rest hardly a moment in the last 7 weeks. And it doesn't look like we'll get any for several more. Tomorrow, if it is the will of Allah, we will be on Primetime Live on ABC. I think that's Channel 7.
Yes, sir.
And we had to deliberate for a long time to decide which of the many shows that we are being offered now to finally take. But white folk are very nervous and disturbed, as they should be, and we should be doubly disturbed at the condition of our people.
Yes, sir.
And nobody is addressing the concerns of black people adequately. And as a result, our people are dying at an extremely inordinate rate.
Yes, sir.
Our young people are under assault. And there is a buildup of hatred in this country for our people. I'm sure you can see it as you move throughout the cities and interact with white people. There's just a growing fear and hatred of black people.
Yes, sir.
In fact, there was a show on CBS a few days ago talking about the tragedy that 25% of our young men are either in jail or prison, on parole or under court supervision. They say that this represents a lost generation of black people. And if something is not done, we will lose another generation. And this CBS report said that America has her own apartheid, and that this is a tragedy by any stretch of the imagination, that a whole group of people within a country as great as this should be suffering and dying as black people are suffering and dying. And government is not talking about our suffering.
That's right.
And the leaders, unfortunately, are not really talking about it.
That's right.
I think Mr. John Jacobs of the Urban League, in his State of the Black America report, was very definitive in the condition of our people. But it doesn't seem as though his words have triggered other black leaders to be very passionately concerned about our future. Well, it is left to us who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who knew and know that that man evolved a program for our people. And it's the only program that there is put forth by any leader that would satisfy the total requirements of a nation of people with an ever-growing population. If it is the will of Allah, I don't really know how this show will go tomorrow, but we will be questioned by one of the toughest reporters in the country, Mr. Sam Donaldson, who I believe gave so much hell to the presidents that they offered him a primetime television show to get him away from the White House Corps of Reporters. He really was the toughest reporter on Reagan for 8 years. And I don't think Mr. Bush wanted to be bothered with him. So tomorrow he and Diane Sawyer will question us. Now I want to go right to the subject matter because I am a little exhausted and I didn't want to disappoint you. Envy is one of the worst kinds of spiritual diseases. Any one of us who have some gift or quality that others wish they had or want, it is so sad that people will literally hate you for what only God could give you. An envious person is really a devil. No matter what the color of the skin, if your heart is poisoned with the disease of envy, you have become in your person a devil. Why is that? Because you or those who are afflicted with that disease are not just hateful of the person whom they envy, but they are hateful of the God who gave that person that which they have, for which they are being envied. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that an envious person is the worst kind of person. That's a devil. Because an envious person will kill you. Now, that makes you a devil. Because if God is the giver of life and the giver of gifts, and someone is envious of you because of some gift that God gave you, and that envy reaches the point where it becomes hatred, and then hatred gives way to murder, then that person who would rob you of the life that God gave you because of a gift that God gave you, that's the worst kind of human being. Now, each of us in our lives have met jealousy and we have met envy. In a magazine called Psychology Today that came out in December 1989, in an article by Mrs. Jane Ciabattari titled, "Will the 1990s be the age of envy?" The title on the cover was put this way: "Envy will turn you upside down." Boy, that's a heavy statement. Envy will turn you upside down. She writes, as the door closes on the era of having it all. Well, that era has never opened it up for us. She said, "We are ripe for a dangerous epidemic of envy. Are you susceptible?" Now, we have never had it all, but everything that we have had, every organization that we have built, has been destroyed from within because of envy. So even though we don't have it all, we'll never get it all, unless we can uproot and destroy this disease of the heart called envy. Now, this woman described the state of envy that many people would degenerate into. And this is why on Sunday I read from the Holy Quran a chapter of refuge. Because right now, we as Muslims, and I in particular, have to seek refuge totally in God from the evil of the mischief of created things. When a person is envious or hateful, they can take that which is natural, created by God, and turn it into that which creates mischief. They can take our nature, given by God, and with a wicked intent, turn the nature and make it respond to a call that leads it to mischief making. Terrible. Allah says in the Quran that we should seek refuge in Allah from a day when darkness overspreads the earth. Meaning that people will become so confused that they will not respond properly to right guidance. They will actually hate truth, so that darkness will cover them, and then gross darkness, so that a people who are envious, their hearts and their minds are already darkened, and whatever light that person may possess is gradually extinguished as the envy increases. Allah says in the Quran that we should seek refuge against those who cast evil suggestions in firm resolutions. There are people that talk to you all the time. And if you're not a discerning one, you don't listen carefully to not just the words, but the way the words are placed. Someone will make a positive assertion, but deep down in it is an evil suggestion. Each one of us have been victims of this, and some of us have done this. When you want to talk about somebody that you don't like, and you want somebody else to dislike that person as you have come to dislike them, but you don't want to come straight out and say, that's a no good so-and-so. So you make a firm resolve that sounds so harmless, but in it is an evil suggestion. For instance, I was downtown the other day, and I just happened to go by the Federal Building. And guess who I saw coming out? And then they name a person. What? I've always been somewhat suspicious that this person is an agent, or now that's a seed. You may say, well, I don't really think so. But then when you see that person, and they may not be feeling well that day, and they may not even speak because there's so much on their mind. A seed dropped so skillfully, you could never accuse the person of saying. They just said, I was by the Federal Building and I saw so-and-so coming out. Looked like they were coming from the floor that the FBI office was on. Terrible. And how many of us fall for that? I seek refuge in Allah, not only from the person who casts evil suggestions in a firm resolution, but I seek refuge in Allah from the evil of the envier when he envies. Now it ends with that envier, because that is what is happening in the world today. That's what has our people upside down today.
That's right.
It is envy. Now look, this psychologist wrote, as disappointment grows and as ambitions and desires are thwarted, social conditions are ripe for a destructive epidemic of envy. The all too human emotion defined by Webster's dictionary as the painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess that same advantage. But it's painful for you to see somebody with something that you yourself want. Now, brothers, you may be talking to a certain girl, and You've let your emotions get carried away. You're in love with the girl. But the girl don't seem to feel the same way. She's talking to your friend. Now, ain't that a kick in the face? Now, the more you look at the girl, the more you like the girl, the more you want the girl, the less the girl pays attention to you. Then you begin to look at your friend real strange. Y'all grew up together, you all went to school together, but now something is growing in the heart. Y'all walk the street together and you hear him talking about this sweet little girl, you know what I mean? And every time he talk about it, you grit your teeth and act like you. And pretty soon you begin to hate him. Because it's like he's taking something from you. It could be jealousy. But jealousy is born out of love. But envy has its root in hate. Now look, this writer says, envy is not a gentle emotion. Envy is not a passive emotion. Once you envy somebody, you gotta act. It's heavy. Envy is aggressive. Not only do I want what you have, and I want you not to have it, I want to take it away from you. And if I can't do that, I'll spoil or destroy it or you. On television today, they were talking about young black people killing each other over sport jackets, over certain kind of shoes, sneakers. Man, somebody walk up to you and you got LA Gears on. Or Reeboks. And he said, well, I like that. He don't like it for you. He likes it for him. All right, nigga. Take off them sneakers. You look at him and say, hey, man, what you talking about, man? He pulls out a gun. He's serious. And not only will he take your shoes, he'll kill you for resisting. There's a Muslim brother in Detroit last week, looking sharp, had a nice coat on, standing on the corner, getting ready to take a bus. Somebody walks up to him with a gun and said, look, I want that coat. He said, man, you must be out of your mind. He turned his back to walk away from the man. The man shot him twice, took the coat. Luckily, the brother is alive, but he's damaged. But he just came out of the hospital and hopefully he'll be all right. Envy. An envious person is the worst kind of personality. As Muhammad says, for they will kill you. I'm getting to something. Jealousy is unlike envy. Jealousy is based on love and focuses on possessing the loved object and removing the rival. But envious people, their envy originates in hate and can be all-consuming, even murderous in intensity. Envious people live in a perpetual perpetual state of anxious competitive comparison, focusing on what others around them have and what they themselves lack until they make themselves sick.
All right.
This is why our houses and our communities are so destroyed, because we envy and we refuse to give credit where credit is due. Cain and Abel were brothers. Abel pleased God with his offering. Cain offered too. But because God did not accept Cain's offering, Cain became envious of his brother. Listen now. Envy grew to hatred. Hatred grew to murder. So Cain decided, I'll murder my brother. The Quran said his hatred made it easy for him to murder his brother. Now, I don't think it's an accident that the word able has to do with the word ability, capable. And the more you think like Cain, the more you kill Abel. Now, listen to me. Cain and Abel are not necessarily two brothers from the same womb. Cain and Abel are two possibilities in the same human mind. Out of your mind, you offer. Cain was willing to offer from the ground. Abel was willing to offer life. God accepted the offer of life and rejected corn from the ground. He wanted Cain to know something about what pleases him.
Yes, sir.
It don't please God that you sacrifice corn on the altar or some material thing. What God is asking is, give me your life.
Yes, sir.
And if you give me your life in return, I will bless you. But if you try to give me offerings that is easy to give, corn, hell, you didn't grow it. You plant the seed there, it grow. You take some corn and put it on an altar and give it to me. Well, that's nice. But that ain't about where it's at.
All right.
Excuse my language.
We get the point.
So Cain offered, Abel offered, I think it was a sheep or some living thing.
Yes, sir.
And from that Genesis, it grows till you get to the New Testament where Jesus comes. And Jesus makes the perfect offering. He offers his life. That's what God wants. He don't want you holding back, thinking that you can buy your way into heaven with $1 or $1,000 or $10,000, because the scripture says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. A rich man would give his riches, but himself he holds back. The greatest gift you can give to God is the gift of obedience, of your will and submitting your will to do his will, then you have given it all. And when you give that to God, God accepts and rejoices and blesses. Now the cane of self. Every time you get ready to give of yourself to God, the cane of self tries to interfere. Eh? And every time Cain wins, you lose your ability to see, to think, to plan, to foresee. And that's why the righteous, the vision of the righteous is limited, because their wickedness have crushed their ability to see. So they have eyes, but they can't see. Am I making myself clear? Now, right within your own self community, there's a battle going on. And these two opposite poles, the spiritual and the carnal, are at war with each other.
Yes, sir.
And if the carnal is able to kill the spiritual, then the spiritual power is no more. You have no more spiritual ability to rise above the grave of your body. So your spirit is lost and buried in the flesh. And this flesh becomes your grave. You live for this. You can't ever grow beyond this. And that's why white folk are so sick. Because their mind is buried in their flesh. So they can only see white. I'm better not because I am better. I'm better because I'm white. That's a sick, diabolical mind that's buried in the flesh. See, when your mind is resurrected, then you can see beyond the flesh.
Yes,
when your mind is resurrected, you see spiritual things.
Yes,
and spiritual things are always greater than the carnal things. And that's why the scripture said the fruit of the Spirit is love and peace and long suffering and patience and all of these wonderful characteristics. But the fruit of the carnal mind is envy, enmity, strife, jealousy. See, all of these things show that your ability, you've lost your ability, because the Cain side of self is offering flesh but won't submit the will to do the will of God. Let's go on.
Yes, sir.
What time is it? 9:15. Can I have a few more minutes? Thank you. Now look, Saul was the king. David was a little boy. David didn't know he was going to be king. David felt he was going to be a great man. Saul was the king. The people wanted Saul as the king, and he was the first great king of Israel. But as David began to grow, people began to watch the exploits of David and praise David. Saul has killed his thousands. David his tens of thousands. When Saul heard the people praising David more than him, he became not jealous, but envious of David. David was such a faithful servant. Saul had a son named Jonathan. And Jonathan loved David. They got along well. And Jonathan told David that Saul didn't like him. Saul used to play music for David and calm him and rest his mind. But David got so jealous. Saul got so jealous of David. One day he threw a spear at him. tried to kill him. And David knew it was time to hat up. And David said, I'm out of here. And he went on up in the hills. But to prove the kind of man that David was, David slipped back into the camp. Saul was asleep. He could have killed Saul, but he loved his king. And he took Saul's, I think, knife or sword and stuck it near his clothing, just to show him, if I wanted to kill you, I could have done that. But I love you. I don't want any harm to come to you. But do you think that changed the heart of Saul? No. It intensified his hatred. He couldn't rest until David was dead. But God was with David.
Yes, sir.
And David ultimately replaced Saul. Saul kind of knew that David was going to be king even before David knew it. And he wanted to kill David because he didn't want David to take his place. Isn't that something? Now we could go on. There are stories like this all throughout the Bible to tell you what envy will do. Now Jesus had 12 disciples. And he said, I got 12 of you, but one of you is what? A devil. An envious person is the worst kind of person because they will kill you, they will betray you into the hands of your enemy to see you in an uncomfortable position because they hate you not because you're bad, but they hate you for being who and what you are because they want to be that themselves.
Come on.
And they're not happy with you being that. They want that for themselves and they want to take it from you. And if they can't take it from you, they will kill you so that you cannot exhibit that quality. Did you know that Judas was that kind of person? Here's where it slips out. There is not a man that does not want to be loved by women except that maybe he has a little problem. But every man likes to know that the opposite sex, come on, likes us, right, brothers? I mean, is that natural or what? Hey, now how many of you have ever taken your wife to see Michael Jackson? And Michael go to cutting up, I'm bad, you know it. Boy, and she start going, you say, sit down. So if you want to enjoy yourself, sometimes you better go by yourself, because don't no man like to hear his woman screaming over some other man. Am I right, brother?
Yes, sir.
So you got to learn that if you like, what's that fine brother that sings? Luther Vandross. If you like Luther, be cool. Don't swoon around your husband when Luther playing now, because he's already insecure. And you may find every Luther Vandross record in your house broken. And that's a start. He's going to break your neck after that. Seriously, No man wants you to give your attention to another man. That's out. Am I lying, brother? He's made like God. God say, the Lord thy God am a jealous God.
That's right.
I don't want you, Israel, to have another God beside me. That's it. That's the way a man is when he love a woman. He don't want that woman looking at nobody. Am I lying, brother? Now, when a woman starts looking, stretching her neck, and a brother want to take the neck off, and vice versa. She's that way too now. Right, sisters? See, God just put this thing in us. Now, what we got to learn to do is control. Man, when I was younger, I am glad my wife ain't here so I can tell this one. I mean, my wife is a fine woman, you know that. And, you know, when we were younger, I mean, she's fine now. Finer. But in that day, certain other characteristics, which I ain't talking about. But anyway, before I was a Muslim, you know, we men ain't got too much sense. We buy our women these fine clothes that accentuate the positive. And then we take our fine wife that we have paid for her clothes and duded her up. She looking fine. And you take her to a place where I was playing at the time in the nightclub. She's sitting on the bar stool, I'm singing. But I ain't blind. I got my eye on what is mine. And I see some dude oozing and easing up next to my wife. I'm singing, but I ain't digging this, you know. You talk about a man about to go crazy. And look like she was liking this attention, you know what I mean? My set was supposed to be 40 minutes, I cut it. I had to get down and see whether what I was looking at was altogether what I was seeing. And I remember my action. I really acted the fool that night. Because I was threatening to whoop her, you know what I mean? Now, she might have won that one, but I still felt I should make the threat. My wife knew I was serious, boy. But the point is, no man wants another man to be loved by his wife. Now I become a Muslim. I know that Islam is the right way. My teacher was Malcolm X. Now anybody that came along in those days, if you know Malcolm, Malcolm was a powerful black man, unmarried. So all the sisters dug Malcolm, including the married sisters, because he was the example of the man that we were trying to become. Now, brothers, here's here's where control and intelligence and balance comes in.
Yes, sir.
Shut up. When your wife sees a developed model of a man, what she really loves is the model. That's all it is. That model is what she hopes and knows that her husband can grow into if he stays the course. But if we get all bent out of shape, honey, I think we ought to go to the church. I ain't coming back to this place no more. What's wrong? My wife seen a model of what God has put in her heart to love before she was born into the world. This is God's woman. And she's born into this world to love God. And when you and I grow into a receptacle in which is the wisdom and the spirit of God, your wife will love you. She can't help it. But you got to keep growing into that. Not envying the teacher who will make you into that because your wife seems enamored or loves that. She's in love with the ideal that she believes is in the person. I love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and my wife loved him. And my wife loved Malcolm, and I loved Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
She couldn't beat me loving Malcolm.
All right.
And she couldn't beat me loving the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Come on.
My leader and teacher was more man than I would ever be. But as long as I loved him,
Yes, sir.
and was not envious of him, then I could grow into him. Do you understand? Oh, praise the Now, that Judas saw Jesus, and this woman taking ointment, putting it on her hair, and using her hair and the ointment to anoint the feet of Jesus. Now, I don't know how things were 2,000 years ago, but just imagine a fine-looking woman with long hair, and she takes her hair and puts ointment on her hair and uses her hair to anoint the foot of Jesus. Judas is standing by looking. Now inside he said, damn, I sure wish he would do my hair like that or my foot like that. But he don't want to say to Jesus, hey, Jesus, I like her too. So he says to Jesus, he don't even talk to Jesus, he talks to the woman. He said, look, why are you taking that expensive ointment, rubbing it on his foot? Don't you realize we could have taken that ointment, sold it, got 300 pence and given it to the poor?
Check it out.
He used the poor as though he cared more for the poor than Jesus.
Come on.
Jesus said, oh, Judas, the poor, will always be with you. I'm only going to be with you a short while. Leave her alone, Judas. she's doing this against the day of my burial. Something about woman. She seems to sense and know when a man is in trouble. I learned this from my daughter, Holiday. She was 1.5 years old. But even at that tender age, that child could sense when her father was troubled. And she would walk up to the bed where I was laying, thinking of some problem that was involved with the mosque. And she would come over and just pat my chest. And I looked at that girl and I said, I said, it's all in the woman. She can't help herself. She's born to console the man who works for God. She's born to console the man who gives his life to God. And brothers, if you want a woman to love you, you gotta stop being a nigga. Understanding that when we live for the higher power, this woman is created by God to serve you when you serve the higher power, and she does not think it beneath her dignity as a woman to serve a man who is trying to serve God. I'd like to close this subject. Joseph had a dream that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars, I think it was, bowed to him. Yes, sir. His father told him, don't tell your dream to your brothers. But he shared his dream with his brothers, and his brothers became envious and conspired to kill him. Beloved, have you ever wondered why the Jews are so angry with us and with Louis Farrakhan in particular? Come on. I have never asked any with me in private or in public to do one thing evil to any man.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
That's 100% right.
These that are with me would never desecrate a synagogue.
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Not one.
No, sir.
Why then am I so hated that I would say to the Jews, look, any of you that wish to sit down and dialogue with me, I'll be glad to talk with you. And the Jews say, it's phony.
That's what they say. That's serious.
We will always sit down with former anti-Semites who have repudiated their hostility and hatred toward Jews, but Louis Farrakhan has not passed that test.
Right.
I mean, look at the arrogance
Yes, sir.
of a people who have continually crushed us.
Right. Right.
And we have not made any precondition
That's right. Talk to us.
to sit down and talk with them, but they now want some precondition. They act by me as they act by the Palestinians. They stole the land from the Palestinians. And now don't even want to sit down with the PLO to work out a peace.
Right.
See?
Yes, sir.
What's at the core of it?
Come on.
If you look in this Bible and in the Quran, but more in the Bible, the Jews hated Jesus. I mean, it wasn't disguised at all. They hated him. And the Jews hated Paul. They didn't disguise it in this book. Did they?
No, sir.
Why did they hate Jesus? Because they thought more of themselves than they should. Jesus pointed out their hypocrisy, their wrong, and gave them a way to come up out of it. And instead of thanking him, they hated him, then sought to kill him. I read an article today by a Jew in a Washington paper who said that if there was a taxi cab that he knew was going to hell, he wouldn't even move his finger in words. He wouldn't move his finger to call a taxi for me, even if the taxi was taking me straight to hell. Now that's hate. He don't want hell for me. He wants something worse than that. So he wouldn't even move his finger to call a taxi for me to get in it, even if the taxi is going straight to hell. Now, brother and sister, if that ain't hate, it'll have to do till the real thing comes along. But that's hate. But why do they hate me? It is because they know that we have that which will supplant their power and their rule.
Yes, sir.
And just like Saul
Yes.
hated David because David was to be the new king,
Yes.
Jews know that you
Yes,
Come on.
and we
Yes.
are going to be the new rulers in that which God makes new. And it just galls them and grits them when a man comes along that will preach that truth, that will set you free and put you on top.
Yes,
so
sir.
now they're gritting their teeth because they are being replaced. Envy makes you the worst kind of person, for the envier will what? Murder you. But that's not all. I have some brothers
Come on.
who say they love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But they hate me.
Come on.
They call me a hypocrite. They call me a deceiver. They call me all kinds of evil names. But God blesses me
That's right.
That's right.
with the ability
Yes.
to do what none of them
That's right.
are doing.
That's right.
Why don't they have the ability, since they had it when he was here, but they don't have it now? It's because the king in them is killing their ability, and what is rising up in them is envy, because I have what they think belongs to them. I have what they want for themselves, and so they're envy is not passive, it is active, it is aggressive, and therefore they want to take it from me.
That's right.
And so they plot against my life. It's true. There are those in the Islamic world
That's right. Listen.
that know how important America is
Right.
to the whole movement of Islam in the world. They know that America, if America turns to Islam, America will revive the whole world of Islam. But they want Islam to come from white people and not from black people.
Yes, sir.
And then if it comes from black people, those black people must be under their control.
Right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Some of our Muslim brothers feel that they've made a Muslim only when they make the Muslim in the image of themselves.
Right. That's right.
And if there's one among us who is a Muslim but refuses to be made into the image of an Arab or the image of a Pakistani
Right.
or the image of some other Muslim,
Right.
That's right. That's right.
then they cannot stand that man being successful. So the thought is, kill him.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So the Jews want him dead. How do you want him? Who do you want? Farrakhan. How do you want him? Dead. See? That's the Jews. But my brothers are singing that same tune. The government singing that same tune. What have I done? They see a wisdom
Yes.
from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad
Yes.
that you were listening to.
That's right. That's right.
And I, whom my brothers want to kill, have nothing in my heart but good for them.
That's right. That's right.
Abel said in the Quran, I will not raise my hand against you. And I have not taught one around me to raise their hand against their brother, except in self-defense.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
I seek refuge in Allah from the envier when he envies. You are becoming a beautiful community. Just look at yourselves. I wish you could see you like I'm looking at you. You are beautiful. And the more you stay under this word, the more beautiful you will become. And the more you learn to cast off the disease of the heart of envy, knowing that your God didn't give somebody else and not give you also. And believe me, each one of us have something to bring to this great work. And the more you uproot envy by retaining God in your consciousness, you will find your community coming together stronger, tighter, more beautiful, and able to resist any force that will come against us. And so as I leave you, brothers and sisters, I am putting before the government of the United States of America the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because it's time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
They don't have any solution for
Right.
us.
That's right.
And I'm saying to the government, we don't need to live on welfare.
That's right. That's right.
Brothers, you getting a welfare check. Sisters, you getting a welfare check. I mean, we gotta live. So if you're getting one, I'm not condemning it. But I am saying that welfare, if you turn it around, means farewell, you know?
That's right. That's right.
It means bye to the spirit of self-determination.
Yes. Yes.
It means so long to the spirit that God gives to every human being, and the duty that God gives to every human being to do something for self.
Yes, sir.
It makes you a slave.
Yes, sir.
Welfare.
That's right.
Farewell.
Make it plain.
Look at the homes that you live in. These apartments, they're substandard. Very few of us have a home. Most of us live in apartments, and we're lucky to get through the winter. We have to put plastic up on the windows. We have to burn little space heaters. The gas company, the oil company, the electric company, they gouge our eyes out during the winter to keep warm.
Yes, sir.
Why should we live like this? When our fathers worked for 300 years to give America the wealth that she has.
That's right. That's right.
When we built the country, listen to me good now, and then fought, bled, and died to keep it, and still don't have anything.
That's right.
They took tax dollars,
yes, sir,
money that belongs to us, and they rebuilt Germany.
That's right.
They took money that belongs to us, they rebuilt Japan. Now Japan is #1 in the world, but we're still in the ghetto. Nobody gives a damn about us. This gotta stop. So I'm saying to them, look, we don't want welfare.
That's right.
Just give us what you owe.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
And we'll make it.
That's right.
Now they're giving it to the Japanese.
That's right.
How long were the Japanese deprived? Only 4 years. They took away all the Japanese property, put them in a concentration camp for 4 years, and they're giving the Japanese billions of dollars.
That's right. That's right.
Wasn't but a few thousand of them. But it's millions of us, not for 4 years, but for 400 years. Then on top of that, every time we got a leader that would help us, they killed him.
That's right.
They got to pay for this.
Yes, they do.
One way or another, they got to pay. And so we have to understand what Brother Farrakhan is asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
Brother Farrakhan is not saying all black people, let's jump up and go back to Africa.
Right. Make it plain. Right.
No, that's too easy on white folks.
Yes, sir. Tell it. Go ahead. That's right.
No. We built this.
That's right.
That's right. Go ahead.
This is as much ours, if not more so, than these second generation and third generation whites who just got here. When they got here, they met us here.
That's right. Yes, sir.
We're not saying we all should pack up and go, but what we are saying is, look here, integration was a hypocritical trick.
Right.
You all know you never intended to reconcile the differences between black and white.
That's right. Tell it.
We fared better under segregation than we are faring under integration. Many of you in this room came from the South. Your parents came from the South. Oh, it was rough down there. But look, we had our own bus company.
That's right. That's right.
Our own hotels,
yes, sir,
motels,
yes, sir,
filling stations. Come on.
That's right.
We had our own insurance company.
That's right.
Segregation forced us up to do something for ourselves. But the moment they said we could spend our money with white folk, our bus companies folded, our filling station folded, our hotels closed down, our motels closed down, our restaurants closed down, our insurance companies got weaker.
Right.
We didn't gain.
No, sir.
The Jews gained.
That's right. Tell the truth.
The sissies gained. Women gained. But the black people who fought and died with Dr. King, the little black brothers who threw Molotov cocktails and lit up these cities.
Right.
What did you get from it? You got nothing but your firebombs put black people on the newspapers, on television, in boardroom, and in white folk bedroom.
Right. That's right.
And you still in the ghetto.
That's right.
Getting worse off.
That's right.
Somebody has to speak for that.
That's right.
And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me, don't speak for some.
That's right.
Speak for all. And so we propose this. That just like these white folks set up the state of Israel for the Jews, we are asking all those who had a part in bringing us to this condition.
That's right.
You got to help black people get up out of it. We didn't give up our right to Africa.
That's right.
When you kidnap somebody from their home and hold them in another place for some time, that don't mean they can't go home if they want to.
All right.
But if you keep me in a house and then you make me build a house, then fight to keep the house, then I recognize that I got a house of my own. Part of your house belonged to me, but I still got a home to go to.
That's right.
Look at this now.
Go ahead.
What I'm suggesting is that these white folk are putting our young people in jail.
That's right.
Killing them, warehousing them, destroying them. I'm saying let all the prisoners go free. Look, we got 600,000 strong black men in jail.
That's right.
And some of you been there too.
That's right.
And you know you ain't no criminal.
That's right.
Come on now.
All right.
Brothers, if I ask you a question, I want you to be honest. How many of you have spent any time at all in the Cook County jail or in any jail? Would you raise your hand? Now let's look at this. Okay, thank you. Sisters raising their hand too. Thank you, sisters. What, would you raise them again? All right, thank you. Now look, if you spend any time in jail, now listen to me. Do you see yourself as a bad person? You see yourself as a person that never was offered the right chance, the proper opportunity. You're not bad people, brother. But you know the moment you go to jail and get a record, you keep on paying for the little jive crime that you did. Nobody wants to hire you because you got a record. Is that right?
That's right.
How many of you that have been in prison can't seem to find a job? Would you raise your hand? That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Now, brothers and sisters, what time is it? 10 o'clock. Gotta go. But what we're saying to white folks is this. We know the government got a plan to kill our people.
That's right. Keep telling us.
And we're saying to Pharaoh, look,
all right.
Don't kill them.
That's right.
Let them go. That's right. If you don't have anything for them to do, you're not going to prepare a future for them, let them go and let us prepare a future for ourselves.
That's right.
We believe that on the African continent, there are millions of square miles of land that are unused. And what we are asking our brothers and sisters in Africa is, give us, your brothers and sisters in the Western Hemisphere, territory
That's right.
that is fertile,
That's right.
that has some mineral strength to it,
Right. That's right.
and an outlet to the sea.
That's right.
And let me be free. Don't hinder me
Right.
from teaching my people, meaning you,
Right. Right.
of the time and what must be done. You cannot hang around no more laying down on white people. You got to get up and do for yourself, or God will destroy you, because it's time. You are no longer to serve white people.
Right.
You got to serve yourself.
Yes, sir.
Now listen. Let me teach my people. And then we put it to a vote. How many would like to stay? And how many would like to go to build a new nation for our people? I'm not asking you to say anything right now. I'm asking you just to think on possibility. Now, all the Jews didn't leave from wherever they were.
That's right. That's right.
Some went to make Israel. And they made Israel a hope for all Jews. Come on.
That's right. That's right.
Israel was a desert 40 years ago.
That's right.
But with some money and ingenuity,
That's right.
they've turned the desert
That's right.
into a paradise. Now look, Africa ain't no desert. They got plenty of desert in Africa, and we don't want nobody dropping us off in no desert.
That's right. Tell them, brother.
But look, wait, just listen to this. Look at what we've gained. Look at the knowledge that's among us. We are the most knowledgeable black people anywhere on this earth. That's the blessing of growing up in Pharaoh's house. We've learned all the arts and sciences of the world ruler. Now we can take it a step beyond with the knowledge of self. Now what I'm asking white folks to do, now listen to this. Give us the reparations that we are due. Okay? Let the prisoners go. Let them do their time building a new reality. You don't see them anyway. So how you gonna miss what's hidden away in a prison?
Right.
Now you sisters that ain't got no man, listen to me good. 600,000 black men that ain't got nothing but time to pump it up. And they in jail, buff down.
That's right.
Man, you let them brothers go. I know y'all gonna say, let me go too. Now suppose we got territory.
Right.
And we said to the government of America, okay, the money that you are paying to upkeep them in the jail, you give that to us plus what you owe us. And we gather all these knowledgeable brothers and sisters that don't have a job. Now don't tell me you can't move 500,000 black people, because we saw you move 500,000 soldiers from here to Vietnam. So we know you can move them when you want to move.
Check that out.
We know it can be done.
Right. Right. Good point.
And look here, brothers. We go on in and lay the infrastructure and build us up cities and towns.
Yes.
And set up your flag.
Yes.
Now just feel it. Just feel it. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it.
God, that thing feel good. If it ain't ready to leave Pharaoh, hey, we get dual citizenship.
Right.
You ain't got to renounce being a citizen here, because I told you they owe us as much on this side as we owe it on that side, so we'll keep dual citizenship. So we can go back and forth across the Atlantic, you understand? But check it out. Just excuse me a minute. Let's go to Africa a minute. We're on the other side, and we got our own flag, brother.
Right.
That's right.
Come on.
Military.
We got our own, listen now, our own government. We're making laws now for ourselves.
Right. Talk to us.
Setting up our schools. We ain't got to teach George Washington. We teach our children that which makes them strong in themselves. We go to building, but we got to reform. And you see, when you're building for yourself, there's your reformation right there, man. You are not a criminal. And when you see the work of your hands building cities and towns, and you stand back and look, and this one is called so-and-soville.
All right.
Maybe your name. Just think about that. Name the towns after your heroes. We have to live in Chicago, New York. No.
Come on.
We in Garveyville. Look, man. Wherever you are, that's yours.
Right.
Walk on earth that belongs to you. And you know you got to have borders. And if you're going to have borders, you got to be able to protect your borders. So I just go to the government and say, look, we can't be in our own nation without the weapons to protect our nation.
Right. That's right. Come on.
And we already got 600,000 buffed out.
That's right. Yeah.
Men. And we got to have 600,000 buffed out sisters. Oh yeah, man, we got to have the weapons to protect our land, brother.
That's right. That's right.
And then we start moving in Africa.
Yes. All right.
Learning the language, and then taking this knowledge of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and moving until we create a United States of Africa.
Right.
Until we, from the Cape all the way to Cairo, we make Africa strong. Now we got millions over here.
Right.
And you got 80 million or so down in Brazil.
That's right. Come on.
You got the Caribbean.
Right.
Come in.
Yes.
And now you got Africa. And we take the technology we learned from white folk. And we develop the gold and the diamonds and the iron ore, which whitey needs to become a master, then we trade. We're going to have our problems, but at least that's our problem. That we don't mind having to be independent. Then if the United Nations is still around, look at it. Then you send your ambassador to the United Nations.
Right.
You got a seaport, an airport. Mr. Pilot, stand up. Miss Pilot, stand up. Navigator, shipbuilders.
All right.
You need all of that when you're talking about building a nation. We have to build the infrastructure of Africa to tie every African nation together with railroads, brother.
Yes, sir.
So that if there's a famine in Ethiopia, Sudan got rich land, brother.
right.
If it's cultivated right, it could feed all of Africa right out of the Sudan.
That's right.
So when one part of our nation is sick, like it was when they had all that snow out here and it was killing the livestock, hay came from all over the country dropping here to feed the livestock. That's the way it's got to be in Africa. That's the way it's got to be in the Caribbean. There's hope for us.
Yes, sir.
We don't have to stay around here and die.
Yes, sir.
We got to have possibilities. And don't think it can't be done. It's better for them to think about doing that than to think about killing us all through disease, AIDS, cancer, drugs, gang warfare, putting guns in our hand to destroy one another. What you say? We got to go for it.
Yes, sir.
We got to go for it. So, I thank you. I thank Allah. I thank Allah for this day and for each of us, and for the time that has brought us to this point where we are ready now more than ever to do something for ourselves. Now, as you leave here tonight, I want you to remember what you were taught. And I want you to look in your hearts and see if you feel something against your brother or sister because of something that they have that you want. And I want you to ask Allah tonight to help to remove that from your heart. And remember that you are not a righteous person. You are not a good person. You're not a Muslim until you want for your brother what you want for yourself. Until you want for your sister what you want for yourself. And what do you want for yourself? The best.
That's right.
So when you see your brother with it, know that yours is coming too.
Yes, sir.
May Allah bless you as I greet you in peace and thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar. Let's hear it for our minister, Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Brothers and sisters, if you would please be seated and hold your seats. We'll be out of here in just a few minutes. Again, as always, we've had a delicious spiritual feast.